Hello everyone, I'm Miss Monica, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, Salesian College Autonomous, Siliguri. In today's lecture, you'll learn about consumer behavior and its approach. First, Cardinal utility approach. Second, law of diminishing marginal utility. Third, Ordinal utility approach. Fourth, Indifference curve. And fifth, conclusion. So, Cardinal utility approach is given by Alfred Marshall, which is the oldest theory of demand, which provides explanation to consumer behavior. Cardinal means numbers and utility means want satisfying power of a commodity. So, Cardinal utility approach deals with utility being measurable and quantifiable. Although, in order to understand cardinal utility analysis of demand, we need to go through its assumptions, which are as follows. First, measurability of utility. The exponents of cardinal utility analysis regards utility to be a cardinal concept, that is, utility is measurable and quantifiable entity. The measuring unit is regarded as utils. Say for example, if a person consumes one apple, he gets utility as 4 utils, which is twice as compared to oranges. Second assumption, hypothesis of independent utilities. The utility which a consumer obtains from a good does not depend upon quantity consumed of other goods. Utility which a consumer derives from a good is the function of quantity of that good only. For example, we often prefer pizza with Coke, but then Coke and pizza are two different commodities. Therefore, if utility of pizza is being derived, then quantity of pizza consumed will only be measured. Third assumption, constancy of marginal utility of money. Another important assumption is constancy of marginal utility of money. While the cardinal utility analysis assumes that marginal utility of commodities diminish as more of them are purchased or consumed, but the marginal utility of money remains constant throughout. Say for example, if price of a good falls and as a result real income of the consumer rises, marginal utility of money to him will fall, but Alfred Marshall tends to ignore this. Fourth assumption, introspective method. Another important assumption is the use of introspective method in judging behavior of marginal utility. That is, economists construct with the help of their own experience the trend of feeling which goes on in other men's mind. With the above basic assumption, the founders of cardinal utility analysis have developed two laws. First, law of diminishing marginal utility. Second, law of equimarginal utility. Let us now discuss about law of diminishing marginal utility. So according to the law, as consumer consumes more units of a good, marginal utility of a good declines. In other words, as a consumer takes more units of a good, the extra utility or satisfaction that he derives from an extra unit of the good goes on falling. Say for example, you buy for yourself a large size of pizza. And when you consume first slice of the pizza, you're highly satisfied. But then, when you have second slice, the satisfaction declines as compared to first and comparably the third or fourth slice, which does not further give you the same satisfaction as the first. So, this is nothing but the law of diminishing marginal utility. Let's now understand this further with the help of a schedule and a graph. I think most of us like to drink tea. So, let us take the first column as cups of tea consumed per day. The second column shows total utility. The third column shows marginal utility, which is the ratio of change in total utility to the change in quantity or units of goods consumed. Say, if a person consumes 1 unit of tea, then the total utility derived is 12 utils and marginal utility is 12 utils. If he further consumes 2 units, the total utility is 22 utils and the marginal utility is 10 utils. If he further continues to consume, his marginal utility declines and becomes equal to 0. When he consumes 4 units of commodity and if he further consumes, the marginal utility will become negative as well, which we can clearly see in the graph as well, that total utility increases at a diminishing rate because MU, that is marginal utility, is positive but decreasing, and it reaches its maximum when marginal utility is 0, and then it decreases further when marginal utility becomes negative. Now we will talk about ordinal utility approach. The ordinal utility implies that consumer is capable of simply comparing the different level of satisfaction. In other words, the consumer may not be able to duplicate the exact amount of utility that he derives from commodities or any combination of them, but he is capable of judging the satisfaction obtained from a good or combination of goods being equal to, lower, or higher than another. So, the basic tool of J.R. Hicks and R.J.D. Allen gave that indifference curve is based on ordinal utility analysis of demand. But before we discuss about the indifference curve, let us know about its assumptions. First, more of a commodity is better than less. It is assumed that the consumer will always prefer a large amount of good to a smaller amount of that good, provided that the other goods at his disposal remains unchanged. Second assumption, preferences or indifferences of a consumer are transitive. Suppose there are 3 combinations A, B, and C. If the consumer is indifferent between A and B and also between B and C, then it is assumed that he will be indifferent between A and C too. Third assumption, diminishing marginal rate of substitution. It is assumed that as more and more units of X are substituted for Y, the consumer will be willing to give up fewer and fewer units of Y for each additional unit of X, or vice versa. Now, let us talk about indifference curve. Indifference curve is a locus of points which represents all those combinations of good which gives equal satisfaction to the consumer. He'll be indifferent between them, that is, all combination of two goods lying on a consumer's indifference curve are equally desirable or equally preferred by him. We can understand this further with the help of indifference schedule. Say, good X is equal to 1 unit and good Y is 12 unit. Say another combination is good X being 2 unit and good Y being 8 units. Further, when we combine X being 3 units and Y being 5 units, and we can go on with these combinations. We can then convert the indifference schedule into an indifference curve by plotting combinations on a graph. So, after plotting, we get a graph like this, which is downward sloping and convex to the origin. Conclusion. Cardinal utility analysis is less realistic because it assumes utility can be numerically measured, while ordinal utility analysis is more realistic and practical because it focuses on ranking preferences. We'll come up with more such interesting topics. Stay tuned. Thank you.